If you're trying to figure out what career actually gives you real leverage, where companies fight to keep you, where your income isn't capped by some salary that someone decided for you, I want to talk to you about something most people never seriously look at. So in this video, I'm going to show you what a career in sales actually gives you, what the income path looks like in medical device sales specifically, and why this is probably the highest leverage move you haven't thought about yet. Because the thing about what you build in sales is it doesn't stay in this industry. It goes with you wherever you end up. And the ceiling in medical device sales is one of the highest I've seen in any field you can actually get into without starting over completely. So think about this for a second. Companies need people who can actually sell. Like, they actually do desperately need them and always will. So you've got businesses that are going to be running ads, building out their social media, hiring marketing teams to create content and grow their audience. And that stuff works, don't get me wrong, but there is a massive difference between a company that has a good marketing strategy and a company that also has someone who can pick up the phone, walk into a room, shake hands with the right person, and build a real relationship. And last but not least, close the deal. And because good salespeople are so hard to find, the ones who can actually do it end up with the kind of leverage that most people in other jobs just don't have. Companies will fight to keep you, they'll work around you, they'll give you more flexibility, more opportunity, and more runway than they'd give almost anyone else on that team, because they know what you're bringing in. You're someone who's actually bringing in money for the business. I want to tell you about something that happened early in my career because it's the clearest example of what I have and what this actually looks like in practice. So when I was still a young territory rep figuring things out, there was a surgeon I was trying to get in front of. Super nice guy, but very busy. So he had his vendors, his systems, and wasn't looking to really change anything. So every time I reached out, it was always a polite no. He was always really nice about it, just not interested. So most reps probably would have moved on, written him off, or gone after someone else who was a little bit more open to what they were saying. But I didn't do that. I kept showing up, so I kept the communication going with him, stayed very consistent. I didn't push hard every single time, but I never went in quiet either. So it was just always very professional and making sure he knew who I was and what I was offering. That went on for about a year, and then one of his patients specifically requested the device that I was repping at the time. So the surgeon needed coverage for the case and needed someone who actually knew the product inside and out. So I ended up getting the call, but not because I had the lowest price, not because I had the slickest pitch on the market, but because I was the rep who had been present and consistent for 12 months straight, even with no's. So I was the top of the mind at the time. So he knew who I was, he knew I'd show up prepared, and he knew that I'd handle it right. So the surgeon became one of my best customers after that. That story is a sales story, yeah, but it's also a story about what happens when you commit to building a skill that most people won't put the time in for. So you end up in rooms and have relationships that other people can't get into. So in this industry specifically, you've got maybe 100 reps all trying to get time with the same group of surgeons. Every single one of them thinks that their product is the best one. A lot of them have good products, so what separates the reps from succeeding and ones that don't? So it's the relationships, right? It's the consistency. It's knowing how to communicate to busy, highly educated people who have no patience for someone who's going to waste their time. So that's sales, especially medical sales. And when you get good at it, you're not replaceable a lot of ways that other roles are. So you have the leverage, and the thing that the leverage can give you, it's going to help you no matter what route you go down. But the leverage is only part of it, because the bigger thing that sales did for me, it had nothing with really closing deals or building any of this kind of territory. So when you first get into sales, you're going to hear no a lot. And I mean a lot. So you're going to get people that you cold call that just hang up straight away. You're going to walk into somewhere and get sent away without even getting past the front desk. You're going to have to set up a meeting and maybe the person's just not going to show. You're going to spend a week where nothing moves and wonder what you're even doing. So that part is definitely real. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the early phase is great, because it's definitely not. It's uncomfortable in a way that most jobs just aren't. When you're going through that process consistently over time and still showing up the next day anyway, it builds something that you can't get any other way. So you do get tougher. The small stuff stops feeling like such a big deal, I will say. And I came from athletic training, so I understood anatomy. I was comfortable in healthcare environments. I could hold a conversation with clinical staff because I've been doing it for years. But actually walking into a room full of surgeons and residents and presenting a product, handling questions I wasn't sure about, standing in an operating room while a case was happening and being expected to know everything on a spot, was an entirely different thing in general. So getting comfortable with all that took time. I took it badly a bunch of times at first, I will say. Stumbling through answers, needing other reps in the room, being caught off guard by a question I should have known, all of it. Walking out of a meeting and thinking, okay, that could have gone better. But every time that happened, I still did go back the next day. And it did get a little easier after that because I stopped being so afraid of getting it wrong. And that shift carries over into everything. So job interviews, where you come across someone who could change everything for you. You've been in harder conversations, walking up to a surgeon who has 15 minutes between cases and doesn't want to be bothered. You've been told no by tougher people. So negotiating a contract, having a hard talk with a manager, making a cold call to someone you've never met, it all starts to feel like something you can handle because you've already trained yourself to walk towards something that is already uncomfortable instead of away from it. So I genuinely think that's one of the most useful things a person can develop, and the fastest way I know to develop it is through sales. Plus, you get paid for it at the same time. Now, in medical device sales specifically, there's another layer to this because clinical knowledge matters a lot on top of everything else. When you're covering a case, so let's use the operating room as an example, and the surgeon asks you an implant size, you have to know the answer. So you need to understand the scrub tech guides, or the tech guides, and know what's in your trays. So be ready for whatever size the patient's anatomy requires, because in the operating room, there's no time to really look things up and say, I'll get back to them. It's just not a thing that you can fake, so you do have to know it. But when you combine that clinical knowledge with the communication skills and the toughness that you build through sales, that's when you become that kind of rep that surgeons actually trust. So that's when they start calling you directly instead of going through a scheduler, and that's when your business really is going to start to grow. Okay, so you've got the leverage piece, you've got what it actually takes to build you and do this as a person. So here's the thing about this industry and the part I think people overlook when they're mapping out their career. So I didn't find medical device sales because someone pointed me toward it. I found it the same way a lot of you are by watching this right now or going through it on YouTube. So I was coming out of athletic training, trying to figure out what else I could realistically do, trying to figure out ways to make more money, and I came across a video about medical device sales. So I started doing research, talking to reps who were actually in the field, and really every single person boiled down to the same two things. They love what they did and they made really good money doing it. So here's the thing, not like it's decent money, real money, something that you can build a family, dive deep into as a person to do that. So this was a career where the ceiling wasn't capped by how long you've been around or what your degree says. So it's based on the results that you actually get. So that interested me. Let me show you what the package actually looks like, because I think it helps to see the whole thing laid out, where most people get in through an associate territory manager role. So that's the biggest entry point to the field. Now at this level, you're not carrying your own quota yet. So you're mainly supporting a territory manager, building relationships, learning the accounts and the product and how things actually work in the field. This time you're really paying your dues and getting your whole foundation built. And for a lot of people, this is how they get their foot in without needing years of prior sales experience. From there, you move into a territory manager role, which is where, I was working before making my way up to the area sales manager role. You've got real targets now, accounts to grow, surgeon relationships to build with. So I started as a TM, worked my way up to an area sales manager. So now I oversee multiple states in the Southeast, but that didn't happen overnight. I kept consistent with this and never really stopped trying to get better at the job, even on those days when they do seem so hard. Here's the thing about learning how to sell properly in an industry like this one. It opens things up. So if medical device sales becomes your whole career, great. There is a real career path here that can take you really far. But if somewhere down the road you want to go in a different direction, that sales background goes with you. So the ability to walk into a room, communicate clearly, and to build trust with someone who has no reason to trust you yet, to understand what someone actually needs and figures out how to help them get it. And those skills work everywhere. So most skills are industry specific, but what you build in sales goes with you no matter where you end up. Look, if any of this is making you think about your own situation and you're wondering how you'd actually get started in this field, I want to point you somewhere that I think could genuinely help for the right person. So I'm the instructor for the medical device sales course at Course Careers. I built it to try and give you exactly what you need to know to break into this field to land your first role. The clinical stuff, how to actually talk to surgeons and hospital staff, how to build your resume and your LinkedIn for this industry specifically, how to get interviews the right way, and everything you need to know to land your first role. So there is a free intro course that you can start with right now. So you can go through it and see if this career actually makes sense for you before you do anything else. The link is going to be in the description below. So if you decide that that's something that you want to do, the full course is there. And I think it's the clearest path, definitely one of the cheapest for someone that's going to be starting from scratch. Here's what I want you all to take from this. Sales has a bit of a reputation problem. People hear that word and, they think of something that's really not that reputation, and it keeps a lot of people coming away from a move that could honestly change everything for them for the better. The leverage that you get when you actually sell is, crazy. The shift that happens in you personally when you go through rejection over and over and keep coming back anyway is crazy too, in an awesome way. So the career ceiling that opens up when you combine all of those things in a field like medical device sales is on a whole nother level that you don't need a degree or experience to start out with. So I found this career, pretty much on YouTube and got lucky, by swabbing a guy's nose that I was working from at the time. But it was such an awesome experience, and I know it's possible because I've done it. So you can do it too. So go check out the free intro course if you are serious about this, and I'll see you in the next video.